Stephen Jones spoke yesterday, and here's what he had to say about how running back contracts around the league work and how that could impact talks with their superstar.
I think the market reset with Le'Veon. I think you see what happens with Gurley, how tenuous it is, and then you get a great player like Le'Veon, who's every bit as well thought of as Gurley, and he had unfettered free agency. He had 32 teams with no draft picks attached, and the market was 13.5 and less than Gurley. So, at the end of the day, business changes, and we certainly pay attention to that as well.
I don't know if I love the comparison of Gurley to Le'Veon, but I see their perspective. Triggs, let's start with you. How do you think Elliott's side should interpret what Stephen Jones is saying?
Well, here's what he's saying, that Le'Veon Bell had an unfettered free agency, could sign with anybody, and he signed for a certain amount of money. That is not what Ezekiel Elliott wants. And Ezekiel Elliott still has 2 more years left, and they have the franchise tag available, saying, Stephen Jones basically saying, we've got all the leverage on this one. We're the ones who have the contract terms. If you don't play, you get fined. If you don't play, then you don't get the money anyway. And yet, Gurley's contract was about $15 million, 14, something, $15 million. I think he wants north of 16, and I don't see the Cowboys ever, not now, not ever, losing a negotiation to Ezekiel Elliott and giving him that amount of money. I do not see him making north of $16 million and breaking the market at running back. The running back market has changed, and the Cowboys are really good at doing business. What they'll do is they'll ride this out, they'll see, and they'll push his hand. Ezekiel Elliott's in Cabo right now, but Stephen Jones has no problem doing what he's done since the very start of the offseason, speaking publicly and stating what they are doing, and that is doing business. Sorry, Zeke.
I feel like someday in social studies class, kids are going to study people who changed the world. It's going to be Joan of Arc and Galileo and Le'Veon Bell. Remember last year we're like, people are going to try to pull Le'Veon. The difference is what Schrager's on. It's not like you just sit out this whole year and then you're free and clear and anybody can sign me. They got you again and they got you again. The only leverage, though, the only way the Jones boys lose is if it does go into the season and the Cowboys just don't have it on offense. They don't have it. In a Super Bowl season, they start 0-2. I feel like Zeke, when they open that season, isn't going to be wearing a New York Giants hat because that's what they play in the opener. And then in week 2, he's going to be wearing a Redskins jersey and he's going to have a burner account tweet. You got to put Haskins in right now to get him going because I really believe history could repeat itself. If he sits out and they're losing games 13-10 and they can't move the ball and the Jones boys say we're going to lose the Super Bowl because of this, screw it. We got to get Zeke in here now. That's the leverage Zeke has. Incredibly, he has to almost root against the Cowboys when the season starts.
Speaking of Le'Veon Bell, he did chime in on Twitter right now because we're hearing, of course, that representatives are saying that Zeke is willing to hold out the season. Lev says they got to pay up, period. After hearing what you guys have to say, I feel like Stephen Jones. Let's take a look at another running back.
What do we got?
Quickly, Mr. Flash Gordon himself.
Come on, Mel, bring it home.
Saying facts, my brother.
Okay,
and I get it, but I feel like, is this crazy, Triggs, that I think Stephen Jones is sort of using Le'Veon Bell as a weapon against him? So is it like what Lev did, the Joan of Arc version,
burned the rest of
backfiring?
Yeah, because he was an unfettered free agent and still didn't get that market, deal, that breaking. So now, all right, the deal was Gurley, but wait a second. If the new market's Le'Veon, that's lower than Gurley, and that's where we're going to go.
That ownership hated this sit out, and now they're like, guess what? You sat out, and you got paid less than market value, and we're going to use that to not pay other running backs.
Absolutely.
That's crazy to me.
Zeke is still on his rookie deal. He doesn't have a ton of money. He's going to be missing game checks. This is a different deal. I think the longer this goes, the Cowboys have the leverage, not the player. I think he eventually wants to get paid and wants to actually see some game checks.
It's such a different scenario to your point about the Lev Bell, because Lev Bell, they had already franchise tagged him the year before, and he didn't have a contract. So for him to just sit out, there was no fine.
It was clean.
We talked about this yesterday. Zeke's got 2 years left. This isn't his last year of his deal. So, yeah, he's going to get fined a lot. But I think it's very interesting that you pointed out the business side of this. All right, has anybody done better business deals than the Jones? When you think about what they've done in Dallas. So, yeah, they've been doing business a long time. Zeke, this is really his first time doing business. All right, when you're drafted, you sign the deal. You don't really have a lot of negotiating room. This is his first bite at the apple from the business standpoint. And guess what? Both Jerry and Stephen Jones are doing this publicly. A lot of teams would say, you know what, we're not going to discuss contracts in public. Oh, no, here's where it's at. This is kind of the equivalency of, like, you see what had happened was, because he's saying Lev Bell held out, you see what had happened was, he didn't get paid. Todd Gurley, different circumstance. So they're basically laying the landscape. Here's what I will say, though, about this Zeke situation. The Cowboys have a ton of money invested in their offensive line. Tyron Smith, they just paid Zach Martin, Travis Frederick. There's a lot of money. So it's not just, hey, we've got to pay Dak and we've got to pay Amari, and we're paying DeMarcus Lawrence on the front, a lot of money as well. They've got a lot of money invested up front. If you're Zeke, just take a look at what happened to Le'Veon Bell. He went from having a top 5 O-line with the Steelers every single year, pumping out numbers.
Patient.
Now you go to the Jets. I don't know what his numbers are going to look like. It's a totally different front. So for Zeke, he's got one of the best O-lines in the league. That means something. This team is built to run the football.
That's why they drafted him.
You look at who they drafted: Connor Williams last year, Lyle Collins 2 years ago. This offensive line is built to run the football. They're not built to throw the ball 50 times in a game. So that has to play a little something into this whole argument.
And that's got to play into the locker room. So we're going to get into that element of it, because you mentioned some of those guys. It's not just Zeke. They want to have deals for Dak done and Amari Cooper done. And Stephen Jones addressed that and when those generous offers and terms could be met. Stephen, take it away.
Oh, I think you could easily get out of Oxnard and be back in Dallas before anything gets done. Matter of fact, I don't see any momentum that would lead me to believe that we're going to get anything done while we're out here. I don't know. I mean, you'd have to ask Zeke and his representation. I mean, our goals are to get deals done. Our problem is we got a distribution dilemma, and, it's our job to manage the cap, and we're trying to divide the pie up. It's a zero-sum game for us in terms of the money. The money's going out the door. It's just who gets what.
Business savvy he is, Jerry Jones did say that Zeke was the straw that stirs the drink. So I'm going to turn to you, Sean. Try to convince me that this isn't changing the dynamic in the locker room.
I think they're all rooting for each other to get these deals. I think Dak is saying, hey, look, I want Zeke to get as much money as he possibly can. I don't think either one of them are really looking at each other saying, I'm going to take from you. If the three of us are sitting here, it's not a pizza. And if I eat 4 slices, you're only going to get 1. That's not how it works.
That's not happening, Sean.
But I also think Dak is probably saying, look, I want my deal. But if I have to play this year out, I want to play with you. I want you here. You're going to help me. I want Cooper here. I want us to be long-term. That we're all going to make more money if we're here together, because I think that they make this offense so much better if they're all there. If you take one away, all of a sudden you're getting less of the other guy.
Sounds great. Look, on Tuesday afternoon, Stephen Jones also characterized the team's offer to Elliott as very generous. It is news to us that he has an ultimatum that he might not show up. Rocky Arsenault is the agent, very talented agent, has been around this forever. Marshall Faulk's agent, he goes back a long time. This is a battle that I'm not sure any agent can win when you're going up against the Jones family. And I know that sounds like I'm lying on the side of management as opposed to labor. Fact of the matter is they bought the team for $175 million, and right now that team is worth $5 billion. They do good business in Dallas, and they don't like losing deals. Not one player is going to break the back of the Jones family. It's just not going to happen.
How many Super Bowls they got the last couple of decades?
Fair.
They hang banners for being the most valuable franchise.
Wow.
They're not winning.
Are you
Super
going
Bowl
David Akers?
No, for real. I mean, there's something to that. I know they're a great franchise and they make all this money. They're not winning a Super Bowl without Zeke. And Escape from Oxnard, it sounds like a Channing Tatum movie. It's very, very compelling. They're not winning without Zeke. We can talk about it all day.
Hey, one quick point I will say. Dak was a 4th-round pick, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? Cooper, 1st-round pick. Zeke, 1st-round pick.
Yeah.
Dak has been playing for peanuts. So I think if any one of these 3 is saying, hey, man.
Right, but doesn't Dak want Amari there? Doesn't Dak want Zeke? You're just saying
but
that.
If anybody
but is it going to be at a cost to his pocket?
Hey, look, I've been playing on the cheap. If anybody could say that, it's Dak.
But he's the one. It's a mess.
At least he's there.
At least he's got his yogurt.
But I trust that the Jones family will get it done. Hopefully, before they get out of Oxnard, even though Stephen Jones is saying we do not know what is going to happen. We'll keep our eyes on that. I have to just tell you guys, I saw something wild yesterday.
What?
Something that I don't know that I've ever seen